Good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our session covering connectivity benefits and challenges for the tour operator markets. And a big thank you to IITA for sponsoring this education session. Before we begin, let's review a couple of quick housekeeping notes. This presentation is being recorded and will be posted on the Go West Summit website on the Education Week page. You've been muted by me, the host. However, you can still engage with our panelists by submitting questions into the Q&A box, which you can find at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We'll have a time for Q&A at the end of the session. It is my pleasure to introduce you to the moderator of this session, Peter Van Berkel. Peter is the president and owner of Travelco USA, based in the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area. Travelco is a full-range B2B inbound tour operator and DMC for the USA, Canada, and the Caribbean, with clients in 56 countries. Peter also serves as the chairman of the International Inbound Travel Association, and with the board established connectivity as a high priority for its members. Peter, please take it away.
Good morning, everybody. Well, first of all, I would like to thank Go West for the opportunity that we as IITA could participate in the education session. And education is very important for IITA, and connectivity is a very wide-ranging subject. We have with us a group of inbound operators, very diverse in the way that they work, in what their needs are, the way that they use technology. And we hope that in the forthcoming hour, we can give you an insight in what the inbound market, specifically for their clients, the overseas operators, can do with regards to connectivity, whether that is connectivity to the operators themselves or to supply-side providers here in North America. If we speak, let's go in an alphabetical order. The first person I would like to introduce to you is Oswaldo Freitas. Oswaldo is the managing director and owning of Easy Time Travel. The company is focusing on the Brazilian market and has multiple locations throughout the United States and provides customized leisure group travel, incentive travel, and golf trips. Further, we have with us Nick Henschel. Nick Henschel is the COO of American Tours International, which is a multifaceted tour company based in California, and features in the product range escorted tours, self-drive itineraries, and specialized technology solutions connecting hotels, attractions, and transportation companies worldwide. Also with us is Lina Ross. Lina Ross is the Director of Product Development for the family tour company called America For You. They're located in California. America For You provides soft adventure travel in the American West with experiences like ranch vacations, cattle drives, river rafting, and other outdoor adventures. And last but not least, we have Faisal Sugraban. Faisal is the CEO of Bonotel Exclusive Travel and also the Senior Vice President at Internova Travel Group, which is the parent company of Bonotel. Bonotel is one of the leading inbound operators for luxury travel to North America. So we have a very diverse group. Technology will be used in many different ways. Within IITA, for those who are with us at the moment that are not familiar with the organization, you can find much more information about IITA, the International Inbound Travel Association, at inboundtravel.org. IITA is a group that was formed by the three pillars of the inbound travel industry. Those are inbound operators, DMOs, and suppliers in the widest sense of the word. And this three-legged stool, or this triangle, if you want to say it, creates the product and makes the product bookable that is promoted by many of the different members. We have seen as an inbound industry that you cannot do it alone, and that cooperation is very important. It is therefore also that within an organization like IITA, many issues that are coming up with regards to national parks or any kind of regulation where the insight of the expertise of the people who are creating and delivering the product to the industry is needed to share that with, for example, Departments of the Interior, or if there are regulatory issues. So the organization is sometimes also considered basically where the rubber meets the road. And we have been very lucky that also major associations like US Travel and Brand USA are also very active participating and are recognizing the industry. So for those of you who are not a member yet, if I can do the pitch, I would certainly like to invite you, especially in this time where budgets, especially for DMOs, are limited very much. Inbound operators with their sales network can be very beneficial to the promotion of your destination. So having said that, what we would like to do is I will go by the individual members of the panel, and we have a very short agenda, and we have basically a number of questions. And what you will see here is connectivity, the benefits and challenges for the tour operator markets. We should see that not only as inbound tour operator markets, because what we as inbound operators and inbound markets do quite often depends on what our clients overseas, if you're working in a business-to-business environment, are dealing with. So the first thing, the first question that we're gonna discuss is what current role does connectivity play with the various types of inbound operators? So we will learn that every company will do this in a different manner. So if I can start off with Osvaldo. Osvaldo, how important is connectivity towards your clients or towards suppliers in the way that you work as a specialized operator for the Brazilian market and the product ranges that you have?
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. And this question is very important for us because technology at this time is it making our distance short, not only with clients, with us, and us with suppliers. And doing this, of course, everything is much faster, everything is much more efficient, and we are making all our lives easier. In terms of cost, of course, this is an important issue, but in this way, cost is always something that is directly related with efficiency, and make the distance shorter between Brazil, USA, and Brazil, USA, and Canada, as we work with Canada as well. It's very important for us. This is the main reason that we invest so much in technology, and to be more efficient and to have more a shorter way between our clients and us.
Okay, thank you very much. Lina, how are you using technology? Do you use technology towards your client side only connectivity, or do you also source through there? And if you do, what works, what does not work from your perspective?
Yeah, hi. So we do connect with our clients. We have XML and connectivity capabilities to our clients overseas. That I would say about 50% of our clients are using that connectivity. The other half are going onto our online booking system and doing that. So whether we have a direct contract with a property or activity, they may still be direct connected to a tour operator that they wouldn't know that otherwise. So even direct contracts go through a connectivity channel in that way. And then, yes, we do also have connectivity capabilities to suppliers through the different channel managers and stuff. We don't work with every channel manager at this time, so it's limited to very specific ones. But yeah, that's okay. So we work with it on both ends, and it's becoming increasingly important. And we do work with some properties that do both, have a static contract and then also connectivity through a channel manager, depending on how they want to
Okay.
work and how the kind of rate plans they want to do.
We'll come back to that at one of the later questions, especially the balance between static and dynamic and what works and what does not work. That is on the agenda later. Faisal, how important is technology for your company?
Yeah, I think technology is critical within the industry, and especially for our company. You know, not only from a supply point connecting to your hotel or various other partners, and that could include activities or other services, but also on the distribution side to our clients via, you know, API XML connectivity as well. You know, there's obviously nuances around technology, and it's a love-hate relationship because it's a continuous investment. But within today's day and age, you know, technology is a critical component of being able to efficiently source supply and be able to distribute it as well.
Okay. Nick, can you tell me how you use technology? How important is it? Do you see any pitfalls at this moment, the way that things are set up?
Well, first, thank you for having me on to share a little bit about what ATI has done and is doing in terms of connectivity. You know, for us with our suppliers, we connect through several channels, some direct, some through switches, never through a third-party kind of other bed bank. That's our philosophy. And on the client side, I think what's really important to point out for our role as inbound operators and technology companies, frankly, is the specialized solutions that we come up with for specific markets when it comes to how data needs to flow. And that's, of course, going to be, I think, an issue for certain hotel chains, how they want to work with operators overseas. So maybe it doesn't make sense for them to work with them because of the specialized requirements of a given market. We solve for that. And I also think it's going to be interesting to see, you know, what in this day and age, in the era of COVID, how that all kind of transpires in terms of connectivity through third parties. I think that's going to be a really interesting kind of development over the next well, we don't know how long, but certainly we're all going through a time right now, and so I think connectivity will be impacted. There's no question, because technology budgets for all companies are going to be impacted, like all budgets. So it'll be interesting to see how we can fill and fulfill some of the requirements on both sides, on both the client side and the supplier side, because of the specific know-how that we have developed. Okay.
So before we go really into the weeds and into the issues that are there, IITA as an organization supports the Open Travel Alliance. The Open Travel Alliance is an independent standards organization working with many hotel companies, airlines, car rental companies, and trying to create as much as a common language, if you put it in a non-technical sense, to create a better connectivity between the different components in the travel industry. Is there within the panel, is there any insights in how difficult that is to work with standards, because they are being imposed basically by an outside organization? We all know that technology, we all are vested in the technology that we have in place, and it is very hard to change course. And of course you can have a direction, you can have a roadmap. But are there some opinions about that within the panel, how these standards in the long term can benefit us all? Is there anybody who would like to speak to that? Faisal.
Yeah, you know, from my side, you know, one of the challenges within technology, you know, as Nick alluded to, you know, before, is, you know, every every connection is different. So, when you have an XML connection, there's a, a way to go standard OTA spec, but then there's customizations in order to receive supply or distribute our supply to some of our tour operator partners. And then when you go back to the hotel suppliers, it's a mixed bag of everything. There's switches such as Synexus, HBSI, Derbysoft, it goes on and on and on. There seems like there's a new one every day. And then there's direct connectivity into some of the hotels that have built, their own switch or distribution platforms such as Hilton. And so, one of the challenges that exists is that it's a constant investment, and you're having to go back and really assess the ROI for, say, a hotel group, and how many hotels are on there for me to develop this connection to the switch or directly into the hotel itself. And so, some sort of standardization would be obviously helpful, I think, but I don't think it's a reality in the near term, given the fragmentation between our industry.
It is more a guideline in the direction that you're moving than a hard rule that you can live by. Is that a fair interpretation?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Any other comments regarding standards from the group? No. Then we would like to move over to part number 3 of the agenda. What are the strengths and weaknesses of connectivity for inbound travel? Some of the panelists already alluded to that. I would like to give the panel something else to think about. And if I put out a general thesis, technology is very good at doing a simple thing many times over. The industry that we're dealing with, and especially if we're dealing with inbound travel, where travel patterns consist of clients who are coming for 2 or 3 weeks to the United States, who are moving around, who are having semi-complex or very complex itineraries, that is not a product that you see effectively being done on a consumer level by many of the tech companies. For example, even the OTAs, the online travel agents, are essentially one service bookings, and you can glue a hotel or a flight to that. But even companies like Amazon, who ventured into travel a number of years ago with plenty of resources, stepped out of that arena. Google is a company that is also transactional to a certain extent in travel, but only for very limited services, the single hotel. So the question is really the state of the industry of connectivity. How suitable is this connectivity that is available at this moment to meet the needs from the international market? If we are talking about experience-oriented travelers, customization, complex itineraries, how do we merge as an inbound industry the products and the experience that the client is going to get by using pretty monolithic technology solution where you can book the hotel? So where is the role of the inbound operator? Is it the inbound operator basically the aggregator of all these products, and the inbound operator systems, either automated or manual maybe even, would be the ones that are creating these more complex programs? Lena, can you say something to that? Because you are working on very customized programs.
Correct. I think that in terms of how we go about it, it's a mix of technology and our knowledge base. We have a very strong knowledge of the Western US and growing into more of the US. So when our clients, our tour operators, come to us, especially ones that are smaller and maybe not as familiar with the US because they sell the whole world, when their client comes for a US itinerary, they need somebody to help guide them in where to go and what to do and where to overnight for 3 weeks at a time. And that's where the technology is great to be able to find those one-off hotels, especially in destinations that maybe you don't sell as often. But direct contracts are still very important, especially with the markets that like to produce packages and put a package on their website for an entire season. They want to be able to say this package is going to cost X amount of money. And there's not a way to do that effectively really right now with dynamic rates, because you never know. You always would have to be switching hotels and switching areas that you're going to. Now, the way we get around that is obviously using our static contracts mainly for our FlyDrive packages and using the dynamic pricing for specialty requests. And as people come in to say, hey, I'm going somewhere really weird, we don't have a whole bunch of product in Nebraska, but we can book Nebraska product through our connectivity channels and through dynamic pricing that we have with different hotel chains. So I don't know that it can ever go 100% in one direction. The mix is definitely important.
So you're a good example of a hybrid company, right? What is the expression? Whoever thought that black and white is anything else than a special shade of gray? In other words, we are always dealing with these special needs, and depending on distribution, it is more suitable to work in an automated fashion. And especially when you're talking about creation of programs, then there is a manual element. I assume for Osvaldo, for your markets, that's the same.
It is. This is why we are talking a lot about a hybrid model today in terms of technology, where we can get most of the information on XML or connectivity. And part of them has to be manually inputted in the system when we start customizing, especially when we start customizing with the needs of a specific market. And this specific market sometimes is different than another one. Not sometimes, most of the time is different than another one. So hybrid solutions at this time is for us, that's a small company. And we need to talk with the small clients in Brazil as well, not the big ones, not the big players sometimes. The hybrid solution is the best one. So when we were looking for a technology company to supply us, we were looking for a company that would be able to offer this possibility for us, this flexibility for us. And the hybrid model right now is what small companies like us, we need it.
Okay. Thank you. Nick, any comments to this?
Sure. Well, I appreciate that you brought up the kind of complex itinerary building and inspiration piece of what we do versus what the OTAs are focused on. And it's not really to disparage, it's really just to point out that our focus and our clients' focus is to provide that service and be able to book a fairly complex 1 to 3 week trip across the United States, throughout the national parks. And this is what ATI has really sought to improve the experience for our customers, both on a connectivity basis through the distribution side, and then even more so on our own platform, where we do enable agents, whether they're connected through another means or not, or they're our own agent, to book their own kind of package. Typically, it's a complex road trip type of package. So that investment, I think, was possible because it is our own platform. It's proprietary. We have invested a lot of resources in it over the years, and so that's different from relying on a technology company. There are a lot of technology companies out there that do a pretty good job with that. And it seems like there's more every day. The difference being, though, that they don't really hold on to the product. And so that's how I distinguish us. For ATI, we do contract all the product directly, whether it's static or dynamic. And in that regard, since that was discussed about the hybrid kind of model, I would say that we also appreciate having the ability to maintain both. What's interesting in the past few years, I think, has been the ability to really source static rates through connectivity. And that's the direction that I think we would all prefer, at least I would prefer to go, because then we don't have to deal with issues with static rates. And honestly, they're not static rates. So like, the FIT rates, I wish that they were static, but they're not. And so the problems that are caused by issuing rates and rate changes and blackouts and all of these things all the time is not always worth it compared to the connectivity that you could get, especially if you can get that that same offer, if you will, on a more streamlined basis. So that is our goal, and if we can also seek and maintain true static rates, then by all means we will do so.
Faisal, how does that work for your company?
Yeah, I think, everyone always looks at technology as though it's just the panacea and the solution for everything. And in a lot of ways, it's a double-edged sword. There's the efficiency around distribution and sourcing that everyone else has alluded to. And then the other side of that is, the complexity and commoditization of the product that you're selling. And so, connectivity is not a strategy when it comes to distribution or how to reach target markets or how to attract, travelers from abroad into the US. And so what we see is that, there are challenges that do come when, hotel operators, just kind of put these rates out via connectivity and say, oh, you're connected, as though that's a strategy. Germany is very different than the UK. The UK is very different from Australia, and all the booking behaviors and technology limitations that exist within there. As Nick said, we approach it the same way. I am a fan of static rates via an external connection because there's loading errors, hotels forget to send stop sells, or even internally you forget them. And so, we understand the need to have static rates, especially, when you have a German customer that's looking to build an itinerary out, for 18 nights here in the US. It's complex, it's changing, and the static rates are definitely critical, especially when quoting and building those itineraries. But there's also the time where I understand dynamic rates. If you want, we have a lot of bookings right now, just given the different dynamics that are the day of or the day before. And with all of us within static rates, very seldom do you have last room availability within your static rate agreements. And so both are incredibly critical. There's the hybrid portion that Osvaldo mentioned. But the thing I keep harping back to is that connectivity isn't a solution. It's a means for a more efficient distribution. And with that, you still have to segment and differentiate the type of distribution and the type of clientele that you have. Because our business as inbound operators is different than the OTAs, and they have a very good business, obviously, but there are limitations as to what they'll do because they don't want to provide the hand-holding service, the creative approach to itineraries that we all work on on this panel, and that's something that we constantly have to remind the suppliers of.
Well, thank you very much for that insight and for the segue basically to item number 4 that we have on the agenda. That is connectivity and hotel distribution policies, and are closely related. So the question is, what works and what does not? We started about that already. And this is, of course, then the supply side, connectivity side. We're seeing that many hotel companies are taking a one-size-fits-all approach. And for those of us who have been around for a while, if a couple of years ago, one would have said, why do you give a retailer a wholesale rate? Everybody was always nodding, no, that is absolutely impossible, but these kind of things are happening. We see also that there are limitations. on the hotel sites, even if there is connectivity and static rates, and a willingness to road rate through these channels. What is the focus of the panel, especially on what a proper way would be to work with distribution? And if we're talking about inbound tour operating, specifically about rate differences between different elements of the market. Of course, if you give a retailer a wholesale rate, then you're killing your wholesale market. If you're willing to do that, fine, but don't be surprised if you don't get that portion of the business. So I've heard many hotel companies are saying, well, it is so difficult to understand who is fulfilling which role in the market. Is that something that hotel companies have to look closer at, that they educate themselves through companies like organizations like IATA, where we are promoting very clear guidelines that are proven in the market? Is there something, Lina, that you can talk about, the challenges that you see, how you as a specialized operator are being seen by hotel companies, and that you're basically being competed against in different channels?
Yeah, definitely. We've kind of taken a similar approach to what Nick was talking about in when we are doing a connectivity with a hotel, we are making sure that they're using a rate plan that they're specifically setting up for us or for a receptive type of rate plan. If we see it coming through as bar or as something like that, then we'll turn them off and not continue to promote that particular hotel. But yeah, I mean, we see it in the different hotel chains that may be looking at, I mean, I see now that certain hotel chains will say, you know, well, our net rate is 15% off of our bar rate. Well, that's not technically a net rate anymore when you look at how things are working, but that's what they offer to the OTAs. So that's what they offer to receptives as well. And they forget that we are not going direct to the consumer. We are going through multiple different channels to get to the consumer. And so it's a constant teaching process. And I think a lot of the salespeople and different people within the hotel chains do understand that, but the decisions are being made by somebody who is not directly involved with this segment of the industry, and so things are not necessarily going through and being seen that way.
Yeah. Okay. Faisal, do you have any comments on that, about the differentiation between channels, what you see happening with hotel companies and your partners, and what would be needed to make this a more efficient process?
Yeah, I mean, we're fortunate that a lot of people within our industry, and especially our suppliers and throughout the industry, are used to change. So a lot of them try and evolve and understand the nature of distribution and how it is differentiated. That being said, I think, it's a constant battle educating, revenue managers around the various types of distribution and the value proposition that we have. So if you look at inbound travel, is traditionally longer length of stays and advanced booking, sometimes over a year in advance. And so if I was a hotelier, that's an incredibly valuable demand funnel that will layer a nice base that I then can yield my rates on, for as you get closer and closer, or your inventory diminishes. But there is this sort of, we'll put it on to everybody, and the market will be the market. Candidly, I think it's just trying to think of a nice way of saying it, reckless approach to distribution, because if I was a hotelier, and this is where it gets kind of challenging, especially in budget constrained environments like we are going to be in for the foreseeable future, is, how relevant is it understanding each demand funnel? There's corporate, there's inbound travel, there are leisure travelers, there's the OTA segment that's coming through, which is traditionally more last minute and shorter length of stays. You know, the list goes on and on and on. And that's where on our side, it's the awareness such as these things, and constantly, you know, not just promoting our own company and our value proposition, but also to understand our type of distribution and why there has to be variances within. And you know, if the hotels don't see value in that and they just want everybody to just be an OTA, you know, they may think that that's a more streamlined approach to distribution. Candidly, they're just commoditizing themselves. And then at some point it's like, well, who cares? You're just a hotel with a 4-star rating in the middle of Manhattan. So what differentiates you to bring the guests there? And that's where it can become a slippery slope for everyone, simply because, you know, we're not putting the effort to understand to attract the right customer at the right time, at the right price.
Yeah. A question for Nick. In this whole picture, can you elaborate a little bit more on what one could call the power of packaging, the power of the itinerary, the power of creation, taking the base assumption that dynamically sourced rates and yield management work very well in an existing demand environment where if you see more demand, you bring the price up, but that works perhaps very well in a last minute environment. But how especially the international market and then the inbound tour operators, how they are more creating perhaps demand than instead of just reacting to existing demands.
Right. Well, I mean, because we package, because we, whether we're talking about tours, you know, self-drive tours, escorted programs, obviously, because we create those packages and really also inspire itineraries, we're able to drive demand, as you say, in a way that's different from OTAs or bed banks. If I could just kind of step back to what was discussed, and I appreciate everything that Faisal and Lena said. You know, I think what happened here, because I think, you know, past kind of informs the future, is that you had a kind of drive by these companies that wanted to really eat up the wholesale market, and they did a pretty good job of it, and grew and grew and grew and became one, and then there was a couple of others that popped up, and that's what drove a lot of attention and issue with wholesale. And I think at the same time you had OTAs realizing I need to be a part of that and stamp that out, but at the same time get some of those rates for myself, improve my margins, even though they're really a completely different model. And I think hotels will recognize that. One of the keys, I think, during this time, as Faisal alluded to, it's going to be a recovery period where I think hotels and other suppliers are going to be looking for how we can drive demand internationally and domestically. You know, so that's another distinction that I think is important for us. We do also work on the domestic market, we have to make that distinction. How are we as companies providing a different service, a different technology solution, itinerary building, dynamic packaging, these types of differences that, as you say, drive demand, or as I also say, kind of inspire and add a level of service that's different. It's not that OTAs don't do that, they do, but it's different. They're not working, as we discussed before, in kind of the more complex environment of, you know, putting a package together, booking a package off the shelf, because remember, a lot of clients overseas especially still have to book a specific package. That's what they're marketing, and they have to honor rates and whatnot, which is why, you know, static is still important, and other things like resort fees being inclusive. So this is the same kind of value proposition that we have to convey, just in a kind of modified way, because we are all having to modify our businesses as a result of the current environment. And I do believe, we believe, ATI believes that the individual leisure traveler will be the first to come back, and they will do so in a way, that they'll want to access the kind of itineraries and experiences that we are able to offer, whether it be in the national parks or wide open, spaces, those kinds of experiences. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Osvaldo, what do you see going forward also, but specifically here on these policies? How does that affect the way that you work?
Well, in the past few months, it's been very challenging for all of us. If we pick up all of these changes that is happening so fast, especially in terms of communications, we are learning that technology on the supplier side, it's really, really important at this moment. But however, technology in the client side is being even more important, changing a little bit the point of the discussion, being able to provide assistance to the clients when they're traveling, with a 24-hour chat application, for example, today is something really important when we are talking with people that speak other languages, and they are traveling and they need support. This is something that it's a little bit more service that you provide when you are packaging something. And the same thing before selling, using technology like we are using right now to do this panel, to our clients, to do webinars, training, showing them the differential of selling a package instead of selling a hotel only in a OTA, or selling only a rent-a-car directly with the rent-a-car company, for example. Is it very important to show the value of what we as an inbound company can offer to the clients. I strongly agree with Nick when he says that packaging today offer a differential not only for the final client but for the supplier as well, because it's something that are showing the supplier that we are very serious about this and we are managing properly the rate that is being provided for us. Doesn't matter if it's a static or if it's a dynamic. They can trust in the process that we apply in order to make the process serious and efficient at the same time. This is something that I would like to aggregate.
Okay, so if we conclude this portion, can we say that there is not always the right appreciation for the kind of work that we do, and it's more a lack of understanding, and that of course everybody is efficiency driven and everybody encourages efficiency. But is it important that if we're going to get to connectivity to a greater extent, that there will be a greater participation necessary from hotel companies and trying to understand and deal accordingly with that? If I can pull an analogy, we all know nowadays, if you as a company want to open a bank account, you have to prove who you are. You have to be very careful about all the statements that you make, because the banks have very specific recommendations. They call that know your client. Isn't that the same thing necessary for hotel companies, that they know who the clients are instead of trying to apply a one size fits all? Is that a direction that would improve this and therefore also create a path forward for the inbound industry with connectivity, if we want to take this efficiency to a higher level? Faisal, how do you see that? Do you see any needs? What is needed? What is the path forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the current environment is a perfect example of markets are very efficient. And when things kind of get out of control, there's a correction. Nobody's happy, and hopefully we get out of this situation sooner than later. But the reality is that, everyone and anyone was trying to jump into, I sell here, I sell there, and, really didn't have to provide any verification as to the type of distribution they had, the type of demand that they had. coming back into the hotels, and everybody's just chasing heads in beds in a lot of instances. And so, what I think, what's going to happen now moving forward, the financial solvency of companies is going to matter. And so to your point about a bank account, you're not going to just let anybody come in and set up an account. They could be laundering money, could be anything. And I think, unfortunately, we're seeing more and more insolvencies within the market. And, one of the value that we have as inbound operators is, we mitigate credit risk. And oftentimes when things are good and nobody's going to go bankrupt, that gets overlooked. But if you're distributing into a small tour operator into Italy, and maybe not everyone has millions of dollars in revenue, and they're booking with one hotel, maybe it's a $1,000 booking total, and they go out of business, are you going to send your sales team to go collect that one booking? Well, with us, we're working within that, say, agency or operator, in which they have, they're aggregating all of their bookings through us, and they have collateral with us. And a lot of times it's cost prohibitive for a tour operator, say in Italy, to have 50 guarantees with a hotel and setting up those arrangements. And so I think that there's going to be a higher level of scrutiny of who suppliers are working with. There's going to be a higher level of scrutiny around what type of demand do you have, because the market is forcing everyone to be more efficient, but also more aware as to whom they're doing business with.
Okay, Nick, any vision on how connectivity, the path forward, what the path could look like?
Well, first, I agree with what Faisal said about mitigating risk. It's not so much regarding connectivity, but about the role of the inbound operator and reducing the risk for suppliers. So that will be a very important facet of where we go over the next months and even years. In terms of connectivity, I mean, there is a mitigation of risk also that occurs with connectivity, right? If your payments are structured in a way with the virtual credit card, for instance, that definitely will mitigate the risk for the suppliers, that they receive that guarantee at the time of booking. So that, I think, actually kind of parlays into both subjects. So that would be my comment.
Okay, Rina, any direction that you see or what you would like to see on how connectivity should develop so that it benefits the way that you work with your clients?
Yeah, I think, I mean, kind of piggybacking on what's been said already by like Faisal and Nick and yourself, the getting away from the one size fits all. Technology does not equal one size fits all. What is right for your hotel that is located in Los Angeles may not be right for your hotel that's located in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. And making them follow all the same rules and regulations and specific distribution policies may not be the most effective way. Your Los Angeles property may get sold out all of the time, but these smaller properties and smaller destinations may need more help in getting noticed and getting seen. And that's part of what we as inbound operators do, as we were talking about with the packaging. Everybody starts in LA, Vegas, New York, but where do they go from there? The starting destinations are based on airlift and just popularity of the destination, but how do you get from Las Vegas to Yellowstone? That's part of what we help with. And those are the kind of things that we can drive demand, as you were saying, to destinations that may not otherwise be getting it. So just, again, moving forward, kind of getting away from the one size fits all and using technology as a tool, as Faisal said, rather than a one size fits all, and kind of coming up with an actual plan based on that property.
Well, thank you very much all for all the information. We have about 10 minutes left. There are a number of questions. Julie has been gathering some of them. And Julie, we have been seeing in the chat box some questions coming forward. Could you post the first question, please?
We have quite a few questions. Thank you guys for participating. The first one is about booking attractions. The question is, what API system do you use to book attractions? Do they work direct or through a partner OTA?
Is there anybody who can talk about connectivity specifically to attractions? Faisal, do you do anything on the attraction side at this moment?
Yeah, I mean, we have, dependent on the group, but like Cirque in Vegas, we have direct connectivity with them. There's a couple other tour, helicopter tour companies in which the same exists. And then you have, the larger attraction companies, but it brings up a valid point, that, within the experiences and being able to bundle those sort of things, that there are new companies emerging and technology is just coming onto the scene that is really kind of, I think, stable and something that can be used moving forward.
Okay. Any of the other panelists that would like to add to that?
I would just say, based on the question itself, I don't know that any of us would book through an OTA to provide our products. So either we would be using, if we were direct connecting with attractions, we would either have a contract with them directly, or possibly go through one of the channel managers. And like off the top of my head, I can think of Fair Harbor. That's a pretty well-known manager or technology tool for attractions and tours and stuff like that. Possibly work through them, but most of the time, if we're working with attractions and tours, we would be doing so directly or with, like Faisal said, a specific group, not through an OTA.
Okay. Any additional comments from the panel? No? Okay, Julie, the next question.
Thank you. Are you seeing new technologies popping up during COVID? If so, have you been researching?
That's an interesting question. So new technology pops up all the time. What is the, if I can rephrase that question a little bit, is this the time for experimenting and going into complete new directions, or because of all kinds of constraints that are upon us, do we move into the direction that we have chosen already? So how do you balance that? Anybody, Nick, are you looking at new technology in general?
We're looking at deploying the technology that we've already invested in that benefits us during this time period, right? And that does mean new development on our platform that makes sense to enable agents to package and to make changes to their itinerary and to build it from scratch, or to use something that has already been pre-built. But beyond, as you've already alluded to, looking at kind of the next big thing in travel and investing in that is not really something that that makes sense for most companies right now that are operating from our perspective on a premise that actually will hold us in good stead when things return to some semblance of normalcy, if you will.
Okay. Faisal, any thoughts regarding new technology specifically now versus from what you're already vested in and your roadmap that you undoubtedly had already for those programs?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we may have tweaked a little bit our roadmap slightly, but really, still working on deployments and completing the developments that we have in place. A lot of what we're doing are provide value, efficiency, all the things that you lean on technology for. And so, we're focused internally around our projects and really getting those deployed. And then when is the right timing? Because, as Nick alluded to, that's what our point of differentiation is having, that technology and the best investment within there. I have no shortage of people. If you go to LinkedIn, I think it's like a hot portal of everyone with some new technology that's coming out. I would caution, it's expensive, and new companies, while they may specialize in one functionality that really sounds exciting, it really oftentimes becomes problematic around scale and funding. And that's something we've always seen, and they come and go every day. So it's not easy.
You don't always want to chase the shiny new object, right?
Yeah.
This is the same analogy. Well, I'm dating myself a little bit here. When the fax machine came out, right? I have a fax machine, so I'm in business. These are tools, of course.
Is that the fax machine behind you?
No. That's the historical one. Yeah, exactly. No, but we have to keep in mind to take a little bit distance. Technology is a tool. It helps us to be better at what we do, but it doesn't replace what we do. What we do is create, we inspire, we are making things happen. We are an essential partner in the industry, and therefore we're creating value to the whole distribution chain. So, okay, Julie, I think that we have time for one more question.
I agree. One more question. Do any of you panelists see challenges getting up-to-date content information, such as room descriptions, taxes, etc., through your connectivities?
That's a question more regarding than the supplier side. Yes, there are many, for those of you who are not very involved in this, there are capabilities to upload standardized information. Is that always as suitable for that? Is this generic description of a hotel, does this work? Are there issues? Because I've seen some other questions as well. Getting data, accurate room descriptions, issues with bookings in general. Are there issues? We spoke briefly about VCC cards, virtual credit cards, and then specifically virtual credit cards that are part of the booking process in the XML environment, the host-to-host environment. Do you see limitations in this technology that make it more difficult for inbound operators to work in the most optimal manner? Maybe Faisal, do you see limitations there? Because you work a lot with connectivity and these descriptions.
Yeah, I do think in our segment, and before we used to be able to get away with run a house and certain, more pared down descriptions of room types. And I think that the information that you can find on the internet today and through many different channels has created a larger awareness for the consumer. And so they're getting down to specific questions or requirements around room types and categories. It is challenging to keep up with the content. A lot of the stuff that comes through the direct connectivity is stale. Everybody delivers it in their own form or fashion, and so it's something where you're constantly trying to do the best you can, and it is critical to have correct information on there. But I don't think that it's just there's a solution that's one size fits all for everything. There's various touch points, whether direct with the hotel and their FTP sites or other content Leonardo, others that provide the content. So it is challenging, but it is critical at the same time, because the consumer, who's more educated and rightfully so, wants to understand specific things.
Yeah. Nick, any additions to that?
Yeah, I mean, content is a huge issue when it comes to servicing our clients. We have to come up with solutions for what we're getting from the hotel chains and on an individual basis, contracted hotels, and really shape them to what our clients' individual systems can handle and what our system is able to deliver. So that's just one of the many kind of facets to what we do in terms of providing that service that I would hope suppliers, hotel suppliers and others would would appreciate that we do play a role there of streamlining and of really delivering what the client needs. You know, there's different characters that they have in their systems. There's all sorts of formatting issues, and then not even talking about language, right? That's a whole other thing. But yes, it's a big issue, and it will continue to be.
Well, we have come to the end of our session here. I would like to thank the panelists very much for their insight and their commitment to the inbound travel industry. For those of you who are not familiar, as I said, please go to inboundtravel.org to learn more about IATA. We'll ask you to join us so that we collectively can take care as good as we can of all the challenges that are in the industry. And once again, also thank you very much to Go West, to the opportunity to have this IATA forum in the environment of the Go West Summit. So with that, I would like to hand it back over to Julie.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter, Lena, Oswaldo, Faisal, Nick, and IITA for this session. And thank you all for joining us today. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.